Okay, now I am going to go through another technique that you can use to shift your old money beliefs. There is going to be a supplemental video that you can watch for additional support with this particular technique. And some of you may have already experienced this technique with other practitioners. If you have used EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, in the past, and you have a certain way of doing it, you're more than welcome to continue utilizing your process. Each practitioner does incorporate their own unique little spin on it. Now, I will just say real briefly that the way that I use EFT is based on the original trainings from the founder, Gary Craig, and it incorporates what he calls the basic recipe, the basic formula, with a couple of advanced points. So if you want to learn more about EFT, I'm going to encourage you to watch the other video that I have posted. This video, I'm just going to get right into it. Okay, so if you don't feel like you need the backstory, if you really don't care what EFT is about, all you care is it going to help me to get the results that I want? Let's just do it. That's what this video is for. Okay, so this is oftentimes referred to as tapping, because essentially what we're doing is we are tapping on some points on the face and upper body, which are energy meridian points. If you've ever heard of acupuncture, you may have heard of the energy meridian system. So usually we're tapping with our dominant hand, and we're tapping with the two fingers. Typically, it's going to be your pointer finger and your middle finger, and that creates a nice tapping surface, because the actual energy meridian point is very small. So when we're tapping with those two fingers, you don't have to be super skilled. You don't have to be super proficient. As long as you're tapping in the general correct area, you're going to be tapping on that energy meridian point. Now, this technique does look a little silly, so it is one that you probably won't want to do privately. However, as I'm going through this, you'll notice that I'll be speaking out loud. If you're in your home office, you're in your bedroom, you're in your office at work, you can be doing this technique, and you do not have to be speaking verbally. You can be thinking in your mind, and so you can still be doing it as long as nobody sees it. If you're triggered, if you're doing some of your work and your kids are in the other room, just tap and do it inaudibly. Okay, so you're thinking through this process, but you're not verbalizing the process. Okay. When we begin, so we're starting with whatever our problem is. We've identified, we have a limiting belief. It is not serving us. Let's take one for the sake of example. Let's say that you are ashamed that you don't have more money. Super common in business, super common in life. So I'm going to use that one for the sake of this training example. When we have an old issue, we want to do what is called the setup phrase. So that means that we're going to be tapping with our tapping fingers on the opposite hand on what is referred to as the karate chop point. So just like if you've ever seen anybody karate chop a board in any martial arts, it is the side of the hand that typically you're going to be doing that with. And when we're tapping at a consistent pace, whatever feels natural and comfortable for us, not too hard, not too soft. Again, it should feel very intuitive. It should feel pretty natural to you. So we're not going too hard. We're not going too slow. We're not going too fast, just keeping pace. Okay. Now, when we're doing this setup phrase, we're using a complete sentence. But for the rest of the process, when we're tapping through the different energy meridian points, we do not have to use complete sentences. We're just being very, very mindful of the thoughts and the feelings that are naturally coming up for us as we're working through this old limiting belief. So now, as we are doing our setup phrase, we're taking the problem and we are phrasing it in a way that converts the problem into a more positive, it puts a more positive but believable spin on it. So for example, if we're working on our shame around not having more money, we might say something like, even though I feel ashamed because I don't have as much money as I know I could have, and I believe I should have by now, I accept who I am and how I feel. Now you'll see what we did there. We said, even though I have this problem, and we filled in the blank with whatever it is that we are working on. And then we put a more positive but believable spin on the end of it. So now if you have done a lot of inner work and you do love and appreciate and honor yourself, wonderful. You could say, even though I'm ashamed that I don't have more money, I deeply and completely love and accept myself, which is the original phrasing that was taught with this technique. But if you don't really believe that, if you can feel that there is a misalignment with using that language, do not use it. It'll be counterproductive. So we have to put that positive spin on it in a way that is believable and acceptable to us at our current state, okay? And we're going to do some variation of taking the problem and putting that positive spin on it 3 times. They do not have to be the same statement every time. You can switch it up, but do some variation of that positive spin on the problem that you're working on as you're tapping on the karate chop point. So if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to do that. And then we're going to tap through the energy meridian points, and we're going to go through the rest of the tapping process. So again, you can say this in your own mind, okay? Even though I am ashamed that I do not have more money by this point in my life or in my business, I accept who I am and why I feel the way that I feel. Even though I know that I am ashamed of myself and I know that it's not serving me, I am willing to release and let this go. Even though I'm angry with myself and I'm ashamed of myself for not being more successful and not having more money by this point in my life, I love, honor, accept, and forgive myself. Now we're going to move to tapping through the tapping points. And as we do this, you're going to notice that a stream of consciousness is just going to flow. Just like when you're thinking, if there's a stream of consciousness that flows, we're going to tap through the points as we're working through this particular topic. And you're going to notice that things are naturally going to come up for you. Feelings, anger, sadness, thoughts, memories, things are going to come up for you, even things that may seem irrational and nonsensical, just like that stuff when we did the brain dump, okay? We're not judging it. We're just acknowledging if it came up, it's somewhere in my subconscious mind, just tap through it, okay? So now tapping on the very first point that we use, the very top of the head, okay? So crown of the head, we're just tapping, tap, tap, tap on the top of the head. And now we're just going through that stream of consciousness, which a lot of times is not complete sentences, okay? So in this case, I'm just going to get the ball rolling, and I'm just going to start with some very, very basic things here. So I'm ashamed. The next point, we can do either side of the body, is going to be the thick part of the eyebrow. So where your eyebrow starts, the thick part of the eyebrow, tapping there, I am ashamed. Now we're going to move to this along to the side of the eye. So you can feel where your eye socket is. We're not tapping in the eye. We're not poking at the eye. We're just alongside so you can feel the bone, and we're tapping there. And again, we're just allowing ourselves to be very, very honest with ourselves about what our stream of consciousness is around this topic. So I feel ashamed. The next point is under the eye. I feel ashamed. Under the nose, I should be doing better by now. Chin, I don't feel good about myself. Collarbone, so at the base of the throat, your collarbone is right here. We're going to choose a side, does not matter which side. We're going to tap on the collarbone. I feel ashamed. The next point that we do is along the rib cage. So if you are a woman, it's going to be about where your bra strap is here. Man or woman, if you take your hand, put your thumb at the base of your armpit, and we come down to where your pinky finger lands. That's your tapping spot right there. So I am ashamed. And then the final point that I use with my clients is going to be the wrist point. So if you take 3 fingers here, base the wrist, notice where that third finger lands. That's actually the point that we're going to be tapping on. So inside of the wrist, I always say, if you're taking a pulse, right, you're going to actually be closer up, your 2 fingers. So it's going to be just a little bit further up the wrist from where you would take your pulse. Okay. And now we're going to go through this again. We're going to go through it a little bit faster. I want you to just get familiar with these points and with the process. So again, we're just allowing that stream of consciousness to flow. The more honest you can be with yourself about your own beliefs, your own feelings, the more effective this is going to be. So now tapping on the top of the head, I feel ashamed. Eyebrow. I've tried so hard and I'm not where I want to be. Side of the eye. I know I can be doing better than this financially. Under the eye. It's embarrassing. I should have more money. Under the nose. Other business people are way more successful than I am. Chin. And I feel guilty for even wanting more. Collarbone. I feel like I should be content with what I have. Under the arm. I don't like the way I feel. Inside of the wrist. I'm ashamed. Top of the head. I want to be doing better for myself. Eyebrow. I wish I could just be more successful. Side of the eye. It's so hard for me to admit where I'm at. Under the eye. I know I have more potential. Under the nose. I don't want anybody to know how I'm doing financially. Chin. I just want to break through this. Collarbone. I just want to feel good about myself. Under the arm. I'm tired of being ashamed. Inside of the wrist. I know that I haven't had the best conditioning. Top of the head. But this is not who I really am. Eyebrow. I do have more potential. Side of the eye. I give myself permission to let this go. Under the eye. I give myself permission to have a healthy relationship with my money. Under the nose. I give myself permission to experience abundance and wealth with ease. Chin. I love making money in my business. Collarbone. I love having an abundance of money. Under the arm. I give myself permission to enjoy being wealthy. Inside of the wrist. I give myself permission to release and let this go. Now, you may tap longer than this. You may go into old stories. You may go into old feelings. You might feel a lot of negative emotion come up and you may just keep tapping through that. But notice what I did here. We started with the negative and we slowly started to incorporate more positive into our tapping. Now you'll intuitively feel when it's time for you to stop. Maybe you're just still going. There might be a lot of stuff coming up. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Trust your process. When you feel a sense of completion, when you feel it's time to stop tapping, stop, take a nice deep cleansing breath. Give yourself a few moments to process what you're feeling and then notice what comes up for you. Notice that stream of consciousness. Now, one of 3 things is going to happen. Either you're still going to be highly emotionally charged. You're still going to feel a lot of negativity. That means there's more work to do. It's entirely possible that you haven't really been truly honest with yourself about what's at the root. So what are you afraid of? What are you avoiding? What are you still disapproving of yourself over that you did not acknowledge when you were doing the work? do some more work, go through it again, be very vulnerable, very honest with yourself about what your beliefs are and what you're afraid of. The other thing that you may notice is that you started tapping on shame and now you don't even care about that. That's a non-issue. You're not interested, but now something else is highly triggered. You're going to want to tap again, but now you're going to tap on this new triggered thing. Okay. So keep doing the work, but now you're shifting your focus to what is triggered now. The third thing, and what we ultimately want to get to, is it feels like there's a sense of completion. It may even feel like it's gone. It's just, there's almost like an emptiness or a void, or something is not there anymore. That is us kind of taking an assessment of that energy and that old blockage, that old negative emotional charged belief. It no longer has that negative emotional charge on it. So you've actually shifted it. And once it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't come back. Now, that does not mean that there are not other things in your subconscious mind that seem similar, but are actually different, that you also need to work through. But this issue has been shifted. So you are encouraged to use EFT to work through your list of stuff. Now, one thing that I haven't said that I'll just say here is you may uncover additional things that were not on the list as you're going through this process. Doesn't mean that you have to write it down. Just tap through it, work through it, release that stuff when it comes up. But if you're noticing that it's one of those stickier issues and it keeps coming up and you're not resolving it, make sure you put it on your list and make sure you get that information sent over to me so that I can incorporate it into some of the custom work that we're doing together. So that is the end of this video. Make sure you do your work. Believe me, the work does work. Okay, but you have to do the work.